Alrighty, hello every folks, and good morning. Welcome to a quick little One Vision guide here today, namely on making your damage stick. How do you actually get ahead in Tactics Ogre One Vision? Because you'll see two kind of comments right next to each other with this mod pretty regularly. On the one hand, you'll have the folks like myself basically saying, hey look, the difficulty's not actually that more difficult than, say, something like Tactics Ogre Reborn, and then you'll get the other ones that are like, no, my DPS wasn't high enough to outpace the healer, the balance is completely wrong and it's unfair and I can't win anything ever. So let's go ahead and square that circle, shall we? So basically, when it comes to One Vision, understand that its focus is on being fair. The whole deal with this mod here is that it puts you and the AI, functionally speaking, on the same footing. I mean, obviously, being the player, you will end up having more agency in general, but in general, you'll find that you and the AI will have the same options. As a bit of an example here, currently this is in New Game Plus, and for those that have played the PSP version, you'll note that, hey, hold on, they actually have equipment that scales past, around the 30s, and that's basically because no matter how high you go in terms of levels or equipment or whatever else in this version, the AI will always essentially be adapting to whatever it is that you are doing. So this is a feature that was already in the game from the get-go, but it makes better use of this stuff. But that's not really the mechanic that we're here to discuss here. The point is that no matter where you go, it will be balanced towards attempting to make both sides more or less equal in order to make all sides feel human. Now, the big thing here is just how potent healing is in One Vision, and it comes in a lot of different flavors. For example, if you're wanting your more kind of mainline Tactics Ogre type of healing, where it's roughly like a quarter of the health bar, give or take, you'll usually find that from something like Purify over on your water spells, being able to essentially get rid of poison and do a pretty meaty heal. Meanwhile, you've got other heals like, for example, Clerics, due to the fact that they properly scale their healing, they'll oftentimes be able to fully heal somebody completely from full, including healing an entire crowd to full. You also have, for example, things like Valkyries able to throw out very large heals that not only, let's say, give a heal up front, but also heal a percentage of the health bar of the unit as well. So there's a lot of different mechanics flying around in terms of different ways that units are healing in different ways, and this applies to both sides. Now, why is this important? Because when it comes to One Vision, again, everybody's more or less playing with the same tools. So what you want to do is essentially look at the stuff that disrupts you and use that on the other guy, okay? So we saw earlier that Hobram went forward and used his draw out ability to go target this archer because she was hit by a few attacks before that weakened her down, and so we'll go ahead and just kind of follow up on his attack here and knock that one down. So that's pretty decent there. I probably should have had him get a little bit closer, because there are some abilities that you can use as a follow-up, like, for example, that's what this guy's entire build is about. But still, what you want to be taking is not necessarily all of the attacks that you want to take, but the ones that make sense at the time. So, like, right now, our goal is Ozma, but I know, realistically speaking, like, I do not really have the fight set up at this point to effectively be able to take her down. So, like, let's say I had him go forward and I used his weapon here, which is this is how cursed weapons work in this one, where they do one attack and then they also take a percentage of their health bar, and that can take some off her, but her armor is very resistant to that attack. So, like, let's say we used some spells instead, and he doesn't really have the MP set up yet to be able to do something a bit more threatening. His basic acid rain is not going to be enough in this case. So let's say we maybe try to get rid of her TP, but she doesn't really have much going in terms of TP yet. We could potentially throw some grenades, which we were doing earlier. So, like, let's say we don't want her to be doing casting type of stuff. We might potentially use some silencing grenades on her, but it looks like something that she's carrying is making her immune to silence. But we're getting a little bit carried away in terms of making stuff stick, though. None of that is currently that relevant. See, in order to actually beat her, what we want to do is break her support system, break her logistics. So instead what we're going to do is we're going to go take a poison grenade and just lob it over on this guy. So we're going to go ahead and just let that sort of simmer for the moment. Because what we want to do is create a situation in which the healing doesn't have the means to go get where it needs to go. So, like, let's say even if we damaged her completely here, we still would be in a position that that she would just get instantly healed and all of those attacks would be wasted. So let's say we go back here and we take a look at this and we say, okay, this avalanche over here is going to be pretty effective versus this unit over here. So we'll go ahead and throw one of those out there. We'll go ahead and take a decent chunk off her health bar. Go ahead and take this Mind Blast over here. We'll go ahead and throw this guy backwards out of the fight, kind of over that direction. And what exactly did that do? Well, it created a situation where there's a unit that's running pretty critically low on health over there, and we can basically just bully him down to the point that he's almost gone. He's stunned, he's poisoned, he's low on health. And their healing, well, they've got one action that they can potentially take. So they can't deal with all of that at once. He's still poisoned, he's still stunned. And because he was nearby this other unit that also had taken damage earlier, the cleric's like, oh, hold on, I want to be able to heal multiple units at once. I want to be efficient. And so she took that action, and now what we have is that this guy is still just as much in danger as he was before. He's still stunned, so he probably isn't going to be too much of an offensive threat. He's still poisoned, so he's going to still go lower and lower as far as his health goes. But she's wasted her MP. He's in a bad position. This guy didn't really get much benefit out of that whole interaction, and none of that healing is anywhere closer to Ozma at this point. So again, we're basically just sort of preparing this whole situation from afar, where we can constantly keep putting more and more pressure in different directions. Like right now, I want to surround Ozma to eventually be able to take down her health bar, but earlier, we attacked this unit with ice, which made her weak to fire. So we'll take our fire matriarch over here. We'll go ahead and throw out a basic firestorm. And since her armor is not resistant versus spells, since she herself is not particularly good versus spells, and because we have that averse, that is a pretty meaty amount of damage that they're going to go ahead and take. And so what we saw there is that they were able to now have two units that are now low on health. And the AI loves to protect itself, so it will more than likely attempt to try and deal with that situation. They may retreat, they may throw out some extra heals in their back row, but again, that is more healing, that is more resources, that is more time that is not being invested towards protecting their leader. We're essentially stripping away her support network in order to be able to get close and deal with all these different problems. But we want to keep expanding this even further. So we're going to go ahead and take this guy over here, and we're going to go ahead and continue punishing this poor bastard over here. He is now blind, and now we're going to go spread even more debuffs to keep the chaos rolling even more. Now we've got Curse and Weaken on that pile as well, giving them even more stuff to deal with. All of these knights, they're running around with essentially, I would call them specific healing abilities. So like Knights in One Vision, they don't actually have direct healing spells. Their direct heal ability is Aegis, which is a 4/5 plus renewal ability that they use as an action move. Their actual divine spells, though, are mostly first aid recovery type of stuff. So, you know, Cleanse, Innervate, stuff that gets rid of one debuff in an AoE. So if we spread around a bunch of them, that's time that they are not attacking because they're trying to deal with the deluge of debuffs you just threw in their face. Okay, so now this once again means that they are not attacking us, but we can get in closer and closer and closer. So we're going to go ahead and take Aerosol over here and see what we can potentially do. Well, we see that there's the option for throwing out more stuns over here. This is her unique class, by the way, the Furia, so kind of like a combination Lightning Wizard Longbow Archer. So we'll go ahead and put that over there, and now those guys are nice and thoroughly stunned. So we're taking away their action economy, we're constantly disrupting their support network, and we are constantly taking ground. And that taking ground is one part that oftentimes gets missed, because players will often, in my experience anyway, continue rushing forward, attempting to basically just out DPS whatever the boss is, essentially just trying to arm wrestle them to the ground. As always, the rule with Tactics Ogre is not to actually get into an arm wrestling contest. You want to break their arm first. So as a result, what we're doing is again taking different actions to go knock units backwards. We're going to take additional actions to try and take more and more ground here, to try and surround Ozma more and more and more, and putting more pressure on all of their disparate elements. So like now, there's a nice exposed archer over here, and I have this guy with his nice big meaty axe to go ahead and do a pretty nice whack on this dude. Now, Canopus is pretty good at operating on his own as what's known as a skirmisher, and these are going to be any lightweight unit that's good at harassing stuff. So now we've got multiple units that are low but not dead all over the place, running into all sorts of problems, running into all sorts of issues where they cannot support themselves. So we might want to put our finger on the scale even harder. Like, let's say, maybe attempting to drop some poison over here on this one. Now, Agumo isn't the most reliable ability, but hey, whatever. We're going to drop some poison over there, and we're going to attempt to have him run and put that cleric to sleep. So, once again, now we are still completely doing fine here as far as our own people go. We haven't burned too many of our own resources to gain ground here. We're just picking out weak targets. We're not attempting to go for kills. We are attempting to force them into a rout, more or less. So, let's go ahead and go forward here, and now we can start working on Ozma. So, we know that they've got multiple units disrupted at this point, but we want to prevent her from running away. So, we don't want her to get any support, we don't want her running, so we're going to go ahead and block off those tiles right there. That is the one of the main purposes of the knight, and part of the reason that I have him flying over here. Because his purpose is to fly around the back, using those flight boots, kind of cut them off, and then prevent them from going anywhere. So, effectively, he's kind of our big flanky dude. Now, this is obviously like New Game Plus at this point. There's a lot of extra tools, but what I want you to understand is that when it comes to all of these extra tools that we're seeing throughout this game, they won't necessarily... like, it's not locked to a certain point in the game. You have different ways of accomplishing similar things earlier on. Like, let's say you wanted to have a flyer, you just use a Hawkman in the early game. Let's say you wanted to have something like poison, you can still use stuff like corrosion, you can still use inbuilt throwing shurikens to inflict poison. You can use stuff like... those inbuilt throwing shurikens, as well as a guaranteed attack from an archer, in order to, or actually not from an archer, but from a rogue, in order to guarantee that that poison will happen. You can use that with the crossbows as well. The side-graded poisonous crossbows and stuff. There's different versions of these tools, so don't get too focused on, oh, I don't have this, that, or the other thing unlocked yet. You will find analogs to all of this stuff. Like, there's ways to do all of these things throughout the entire game, alright? So don't focus too much on that. Now, we see that there's a wizard over here with a turn coming up, so we're just going to go ahead and stun him real quick, and she's going to continue sitting there. Next, we see that this one's about to get a turn here as well. So, since we want to keep this nice, happy disruption train going, what we're actually going to do is throw out even more Lament of the Dead to throw out even more debuffs, get those mass weakens going, hopefully. It's funny because the new Lament of the Dead in One Vision is so freaking good. Basically makes it so that the curse makes them far more vulnerable to crits, and additionally just completely shuts down offense. It's great. And you can still combine that with the standard fear type of stuff here as well. Alright, now let's go see. Can I actually activate... No, I don't want to use that. For some reason I thought the Grimilkin had one of the steel abilities still, but... oh well. Anyways, hopefully we'll be able to crit this guy for almost his full bar. Yeah, there we go. I love that. I love that. It sets it up so dang well. But, again, they have so many things to potentially think about at this point. And this actually scales up when it comes to having multiple clerics as well. Actually, one of the most solid answers to, let's say, a situation where you're dealing with clerics and whatnot, is to actually have a ninja go up and try to put them to sleep, because they can just attack and sleep them with stuff like Mage Hunting Claws, as well as their Sleep Bomb move, over and over and over and over and over, and you can keep spamming that because they are a very fast mover. Or you can target them with stuff like silencing arrows on your archer, or you can target them with certain attack moves that will have a similar effect or whatnot. There's, again, a lot of tools constantly at your disposal. The thing is not to get too focused on just trying to do one thing. You always want to do your prep ahead of time. You don't want to focus on just one thing, because if the AI only has one thing to think about, well, that's only one thing they're dealing with. So, like, right now, I'm keeping that warrior's health over there low in order to put more pressure onto Ozma. Oh, shoot, I don't have a basic Thunder Flare on her? Interesting. Well, that's a whoopsie. I was gonna say that probably would have been a good tool there. But again, I want to prevent Ozma from escaping, so we're going to go ahead and use Dead Anchor with its recovery time delay, as well as its Leaden, to prevent her from moving even further. So now her turn is effectively reset. So she is crippled and damaged. She's got very little support at the moment. Her healing elements are completely overwhelmed on the completely opposite side of the map, and we're just free to do whatever at this point. So that's basically how you make it stick. You cause chaos, you keep putting pressure, not necessarily on that one unit themselves. Like, when I say use poison to make it so that the healing goes away, I mean, like, poison everybody else. You don't have to be able to poison the leader to be able to get ahead. You basically just spread out debuffs all over the place, and you keep looking for an opening. If you just rely on just one ace unit to try to push through from the front, inevitably they will get hit by a stun or something, and you'll get pissed off as they're sitting there stumbling their attacks. What we want to do is have a bunch of different backup plans of people spamming out debuffs, attempting to flank. Something happens to your first flanker, send another. Something happens to that guy, send another. I always want to try and have more and more kind of backup plans ready to go, but never underestimate your debuffs. They are some of the best tools that you have for buying yourself time. Things like let's say Leaden, Slow, any kind of RT reset abilities, all of those are going to be available in something like your Terenius. And you might not think, oh, you know, my Terenius, their mage kind of stats absolutely suck. You know, they're never going to hit anything. But you have to realize those abilities are oftentimes going against avoidance, and a lot of the guys in heavy armor, yeah, they ain't rocking a lot of avoidance. So oftentimes things like heavy units, like heavy armor units, big heavy, you know, kind of meteor units, stuff like your dragons and your just kind of bigger body blockers, golems and stuff like that, oftentimes they're extremely vulnerable to all kinds of debuff abilities, and a lot of them absolutely stack things in your favor. Okay? So, with that all said, I think we can pretty quickly wrap this one up here. They're going to get a few charms off, but that is okay. Actually, I didn't really dwell on it earlier, but that was one of the reasons that I had the matriarch over here going forward like I did, because oftentimes they're very good at baiting out finisher attacks and just eating them on their armor, as they always do. Like their shield ability, their evade ability. Let's see, who's got a turn coming up? You do. So I'll just go ahead and awaken that one. And then we should be good to wrap up here, because ain't no help coming. That's the thing. Like, nobody's coming to help Ozma at this point. So we're free to go ahead and just sort of continue putting on pressure where we need to, but realistically there's not much that any of these goobers can do at this point. Additionally, one kind of cool note here. Actually, you know what? We might be able to Armageddon a couple of these dudes. Let's see, one there, one there. You might be able to dodge it, but I'm not too fussed if he doesn't. Yeah, you know, whatever. It looks cool. I like Armageddon. Bam! See if this ends up working out perfectly. Almost worked out perfectly. Oh well, whatever. Took out our own ninja, but I'm okay with that. And, yeah, let's see. We should be able to go over here. Should be able to drop this absolute 0 over here. There we go, 52. That should put her into critical, and then that should end the fight right there. So, even if things are ineffective in the right circumstances, sometimes they might still be effective. Like we saw right there, generally speaking, longbows are pretty ineffective versus heavier armor units, but when you're potentially, like when you already have them exposed, hell, you might as well just send the shot, you know? Alright, so let's see, we should be able to just blitz to this. Yep. There we go. No avoiding that, and that is the fight done. So, that is, that's how you do it. So, hopefully that helps. Let me know if you have any questions, and thank you all for stopping by. Alright, take care. Later.